comes with free gift packaging, so you don't have to wrap it. And a personalized gift card. Delivery is guaranteed by Christmas. So order now at pajamagram.com.
This is electricity. This is a power plant. This is Tim Barkholtz.
That's me.
This is something he's researching at ExxonMobil, using fuel cells to capture carbon emissions at power plants.
This is the potential.
Reducing CO2 emissions by up to 90%, while also producing more power.
This could be big.
Energy lives here.
The president in another fight over Twitter with the Washington Post.
Post put out a phony photo of an empty arena hours before I arrived. Real photos now shown as I spoke. Packed house.
In sanctuary states and cities, innocent Americans are at the mercy of criminal aliens. They're no good.
Calling out the fake news, story after story after story. He is bold, he is brash, and he is getting things done. That's why he's the president.
President Trump, tough this week on illegal immigration.
Raging wildfires out west turning deadly.
We're facing a new reality in the state where fires threaten people's lives. This is kind of the new normal.
In Jackson, Mississippi, the president toured the state's brand new $100 million Civil Rights Museum.
This is a tribute to our nation at the highest level.
48-yarder on the way. No good. Army, for the second year, has won it. I only want to be with you. You can call me your fool. I only want to be with you.
You know, Griff, I don't know if this is fake news or not, but I got a report this morning that Army recruitment is up today. A lot of new enlistments.
All right, congratulations, Pete. It was an amazing
this
game.
Army victory for all
Put it on for a second. Every hour.
Can you show me your Army socks, though?
I do have some Army Green Man Soldier socks today, too.
Okay. That's amazing.
Okay,
come on. We got to celebrate.
I am going to get my revenge because we are going surfing later. I had one day of snow.
I will look
It was a beautiful football game to watch, but I also had to walk around in the snow out here. I'm done. One day of snow, I am done. Winter is over. We're going surfing today. I have a surfing machine here.
Inflatable mechanical surfboards, the closest we're going to get on this snowy day in New York to
City.
California for Griff Jenkins.
Exactly.
Awesome.
And we will
look
get...
who we have again today. Ebony
I
K.
know. I'm
Williams.
so excited, guys. Day 2. This is really fun. Thank you.
Are you excited
so
to go
much.
surfing?
I love it. It's good.
We'll talk about that later. Okay.
Well, we got a lot to talk about, and we've got to talk about how big the president's crowd was.
That's right. So here's some visual of, you all saw it on Friday night. The president gave a campaign rally in Pensacola, Florida, just on the border of Alabama. Talked a lot about Roy Moore, but also his agenda and how far it's advanced in a year. Well, a Washington Post reporter decided to take issue with the size of the crowd. Here's the photo that Dave Weigel, who's a reporter for the Washington Post, and President Trump had said that the event was packed to the rafters. Well, Dave Weigel pushes this photo out that clearly shows it's not packed to the rafters. I mean, look how empty that is, except one small mistake on that particular tweet, which the president was quick to point out. The president, quickly after Dave Weigel posted this, Griff tweeting this.
President saying, put out a phony photo of an empty arena hours before I arrived at the venue with thousands of people outside on their way in. Real photos now shown as I spoke. Packed house, many people unable to get in. Demand apology and retraction from fake news. WAPO. And, of course, my colleague Dave responded.
Yes, he did. And he actually did apologize. We'll read that for you. Here's the tweet. He said, I apologize. I deleted the photo after at Martosco told me I'd gotten it wrong. Was confused by the image of you walking in on the bottom right corner.
By the way, Martosco, I don't know him, but he's a Daily Mail reporter who says, I never talked to Dave Weigel. So Dave Weigel used him as a convenient excuse to say I got it wrong. But ultimately, what this is about is the jump to conclusion bias of the so-called mainstream media, which is not mainstream at all. They're all lefties. And they want to make it look like this arena wasn't packed. When that photo was taken, that Dave Weigel put out, hold on, it was 2 hours before the event. There was no one there because they were waiting in line to get in. The president's pointing out, once I was in there, it was packed, and there was still a line outside. So I ask you, Ebony, why the reflexive desire to preemptively disprove the president when what reporting should be about is fact-based of what actually happened?
Right. So two things. A, better to be right than first. So I totally agree with you there, Pete. Everybody in this business, or otherwise, really, work on getting it right, not just getting out the first tweet possible. But here's the thing that's crazy to me, guys. Why this fascination about crowd size anyway? And I have to say, I think this started with the inauguration, right? Certainly with the president and Sean Spicer, then press secretary, talking about the crowd size. And I think you asked why such a need for this type of thing. I think everybody's trying to kind of get at the Achilles heel of President Trump because they feel this crowd size issue is important to him.
Here's the thing, though. The president may be overplaying a hand a little bit and calling for Dave to be fired. I don't think he should be fired. He made a mistake and he apologized, okay? But it was good that the president
How many times did they get
attacked
it wrong?
What I think the president should have maybe perhaps put the focus on is simply that, and you talk about getting it right, not first. It was foolish for Dave to even send that photo out without a quick check because Pensacola, Floribama, as we talked about, right next door to where
Florida's coming out for
Roy
President
Moore
Trump,
is.
of course.
The two rallies.
He didn't know that on election day.
The two rallies.
Well, they better figure it out. It's a year later.
That's exactly right.
The two rallies that the president had there on the campaign trail were among the largest. I was there outside. There was upwards of 3,000, maybe 4,000 people outside the venue that couldn't get in. Anyone that was on the campaign trail knew the hot spots, and so that was a quick attempt at low-hanging fruit to undermine
again,
the
this is common sense, though, fellas. Whatever you think of the president or his policies or whatever, you cannot deny his ability to draw out massive crowds. That is something that he has proven time and time again.
And you cannot deny the desire of the so-called mainstream media to try to make the president look bad.
But it may not be.
But he does. He does make it a little easy.
You're a fair journalist. I get it. I appreciate that. But can you not acknowledge that so many of your buddies at other networks are left-wingers who their bias has just been exposed?
But I don't know if you're right, though. I don't know if it's a sinister thing so much as they just don't understand.
I didn't say it was sinister.
I think that they do. I think I'm going to actually go with Pete here, Griff. I do think that there are people that can just say now, plainly, I really have an issue with this president, just like some people really had an issue with George W. Bush or Nixon or Reagan or Obama.
Counselor, I offer as evidence exhibit number 1, the New York Times cover today.
I think these are evidence for Ebony, actually.
Okay.
Maggie Haberman, Glenn Thrush, and Peter Baker on the cover of the failing New York Times, failing because it fails to tell the whole story on many levels.
From Pete.
The president. That's right, of course. I'll own that title, thankfully, as will the president. The president versus the presidency. So if you open it up, you're not necessarily reading at the top of the byline about Roy Moore, about the rally, about Jerusalem, about the stock market, about all the things that have happened. You're reading quotes like this from the New York Times. Despite all his bluster, he views himself less as a titan dominating the world stage than a maligned outsider engaged in a struggle to be taken seriously, according to interviews with 60 advisors, associates, and friends and members of Congress.
Yeah, of course, that article quoting Nancy Pelosi, who also says this: at first, there was a thread of being an imposter that may have been in his mind. The bigger problem, the thing people need to understand, is that he was utterly unprepared for this. It would be like you or me going into a room and being asked to perform brain surgery. When you have a lack of knowledge as great as his, it can be bewildering.
I love, by the way, that they said they called his Twitter Excalibur. His sword, and you know, look, this is the point that I was making early this morning, and that is that this article on the heels of a booming economy, of the tax reform looming, everything that's going on, they have devoted column after column, page after page, trying to paint a picture of a president who is doing things entirely different than they're used to, and it's driving them, apparently, it seems, nuts.
Which they never would have for Barack Obama. So, I'm sorry, being an adjunct professor, a community organizer, a state senator, and then a couple of years in the Senate makes you prepared to be president.
He was also a lawyer. He was also a lawyer.
Good, I'm glad. I love lawyers. There's lots of them out there. Fine. That doesn't make you qualified to be president of the United States. But he did win 2 elections, so therefore he was the president.
Well, I
we all
think
respect
he's
that
as qualified as Donald Trump is qualified. I see it differently.
So I get you see it differently. Yeah. But the New York Times didn't see it differently.
But you know what? Here's the greater
They would never have written this article about Barack Obama.
Well, because they're in alignment with President Obama's politics. It's very similar.
Great point.
Right.
This guy ran a multi-billion-dollar industry. He succeeded in business. He's built things. He's as qualified qualified as Barack Obama was.
Absolutely. I don't disagree with that.
But you're pointing out, exactly, you're pointing out the bias. You're acknowledging the fact that these reporters who are leftists write about this president to go after him in a way they never would have of Barack Obama. We should talk about that and be real about that as opposed to pretending that it's all the news that fit to print.
Let me ask you this. We know what the New York Times thinks. What would Hollywood think? Oh, wait, hold on. They happen to be weighing in on another story I want to get to, and that is Hollywood is now getting involved in the Roy Moore race, coming to the aid of Roy's opponent, Doug Jones. We saw this movie before in a special election in Georgia. It was Karen Handel, the Republican, in a safe Republican seat once held by Newt Gingrich, running against a young Democrat named John Ossoff. And you had Rosie O'Donnell, Samuel L. Jackson, Alyssa Milano, to name a few, coming rushing in.
We also saw that with Hillary Clinton at the end of her campaign, right? You saw Beyonce, Jay-Z, all
what happened in Georgia?
Well, in both cases, the celebrities did not help, and both candidates lost who were endorsed by these celebrities.
I mean, when's the last time you were like, what do the celebrities think? I'm going to vote their way. Here's a couple of examples, a couple of tweets. Mark Ruffalo, I don't even know his name, but apparently he's a celebrity. Come on, Alabama. You got good in you. Do the right. Yeah, I recognize his picture now. Yeah.
And Patton Oswalt, for the sake of your kids' education, please vote at G. Douglas Jones.
Yeah, well, of course, we had Tammy Bruce, a Fox News contributor, coming on and really kind of making a different point. But here's the issue. I lived in Los Angeles for quite a while. I was there for about 5 years. Celebrity culture is all the rage there. But when you go to the kind of heart of America, when you go to Alabama, North Carolina, Tennessee, Florida, these states, this just does not resonate. In fact, even that whole "we know you've got good in you" for Mark, that sounds a bit condescending, I believe. I believe it's a high questioning of their values and their moral integrity, and I don't think it's going to resonate.
The last time a Hollywood movie actor came to Washington made any sense, his name was Ronald Reagan in 1980, and there really hasn't been a whole lot since in terms of the contributions from the left.
I don't know. Clint Eastwood talked to an empty chair. That was fairly effective.
Unsuccessful.
It actually was unsuccessful.
Right. That was very unsuccessful.
Another point, like, people don't want to be told by celebrities what to think. It is condescending, and oftentimes, even just in the recommendation, the language, which doesn't feel condescending, is the people of Alabama are going to vote for the person that they feel represents them, even if they're imperfect choices. And I wonder when the left or the Democrats will realize when you say these things, it makes them more likely to vote against you. It actually doesn't help your cause.
It's just not effective. Now we're going to turn to our headlines and some extreme weather. Millions of people in the Northeast are digging out this morning from the season's first big snowstorm.
They should go surfing.
Oh, my God, Greg. Some coastal areas receiving up to 6 inches. Black ice, though, now creating treacherous travel conditions. The storm's also stranding passengers at airports, with thousands of flights delayed and canceled. This is the same storm that blanketed parts of the South, with nearly 200,000 customers losing power. And firefighters finally getting the upper hand on 6 massive wildfires carving paths of destruction in Southern California. Some now 50% contained or more. The Thomas Fire in Ventura County, though, still raging, consuming 155,000 acres and counting. It's 15% contained, but officials are still hopeful. Governor Jerry Brown warning these devastating fields possibly could be the new normal.
We're facing a new reality in the state where fires threaten people's lives, their property, their neighborhoods.
This week's fires have destroyed nearly 800 buildings and forced more than 200,000 people out of their homes. My goodness. Those are your headlines.
It doesn't stop. Good luck out there.
All right, and coming up, liberal comedian Chelsea Handler making a disgusting parody of White House Press Secretary Sarah Sanders.
Now, blush is very accessible. You can get this at a drugstore right next to the gun store where you can pick up your guns because it is your...
Her dad, Governor Mike Huckabee, is here to respond. That's coming up.
And Democrats say the Republican tax plan will cause Armageddon. But our next guest says the liberal hysteria is, well, shall you say, misleading Americans. Congresswoman Cathy McMorris Rodgers has the facts you won't see anywhere else. Stick around on Fox and Friends.
In the rich man's world. Monday, Monday, Monday. Always Sunday. In the rich man's world.
An estimate that thousands will die as a consequence of this bill is actually a very conservative estimate.
It is the end of the road. This health care, the debate on health care is life, death. This is Armageddon.
Griff, we're all going to die. Democrats predicting the end of the world under the GOP tax reform plan. But our next guest says this liberal hysteria is misleading Americans, to say it lightly, about the historic opportunity to improve their lives.
Here to break down the facts you won't see anywhere else, the chairwoman of the House Republican Conference, Congresswoman Cathy McMorris-Rodgers. Good morning, Chairwoman. How are you?
Good morning. Great to be with you.
What is all this hysteria about?
Well, it's really the rhetoric from those that are the defenders of the status quo. They don't want the change. Our plan, this tax plan, is pro-family, it's pro-economic growth. I would encourage people, if they want to see all the details, they can go to fairandsimple.gop. But it's from the very beginning, our goal has been to improve everyone's lives through this tax plan, give them more opportunities, whether it's the doubling of the standard deduction, the expansion of the ABLE accounts for those with disabilities. For an average family of four making $50,000, it is estimated it will be a $1,182 tax cut. This represents 75% of their tax bill. So no matter who you are, you're going to see more money in your pocket. That's what we want. We want more money.
Chairwoman, listen, I heard a lot of great things there. What I didn't hear was death or destruction or Armageddon. No, honestly, but when you're faced with opponents of the bill who impugn your motives, they tell you you want to kill people, you're going to cause death. Where does that rhetoric come from, and what could they be pulling from your bill to draw that conclusion?
Well, I really think that it is using the fear tactics, and they're trying to create this fear among people. But the reality is, we've worked very hard. We've been working on this for months, actually years, and are excited that we're on the verge of passing a tax bill that is going to create jobs. It's going to reduce taxes. It's going to result in more take-home pay. Bring those jobs home from overseas. We've seen so many companies being bought out by foreign companies. We want America to be the best place to grow and start that business.
Congresswoman, I got to ask you, there's a Washington Post headline today that says that they lost focus on the middle class. Did they? The GOP lost focus. Did they lose focus on the middle class?
This plan is geared towards hardworking men and women, those that are going to work every day, making their mortgage, trying to save for retirement, trying to save for their college tuition. From the very beginning, our goal has been towards the low middle income Americans, and as a percentage of tax cut, they're going to receive the highest portion of the tax cut in this bill, because we want them to have a step up. We want to help them have that opportunity for a better life. But in addition, we're also focusing on small businesses. It's small businesses in America that have paid the highest effective tax rate, and those are our job creators.
We only have 15 seconds left. Put your hand on the crystal ball. Does this pass by Christmas?
Yes, we're on track, and I'm excited about it and what it means for everyone in this country.
Chairman Cathy McMorris-Rodgers, thank you very much for coming, and Merry Christmas to you.
Appreciate it.
Merry Christmas.
All right, the mainstream media making a series of mistakes in their coverage of President Trump. Does this put a fork in the Russian collusion narrative?
And you know how some kids just cannot control themselves?
Oh, yeah. Everything is under control. No.
Well, some adults are the same way, but most kids, you're right. Our next guest has 3 tips every parent needs to hear to help raise their kids and somehow keep them under control over Christmas.
We're going to need more than 3.
Yeah.
Or 9. Welcome back. Time now for your news by the numbers. First, 2,200 feet. That's the daring trek and extreme tightroper walk from the Eiffel Tower to the Trocadero Square in Paris, and while suspended 200 feet in the air. Nathan Paulin breaking the world slack line record. Next, the #1 best city for driving, Greensboro, North Carolina. You hear that? North Carolina.
Go Tar Heel State.
That's according to Waze's annual Driver Satisfaction Index, using driving data from its millions of users across the U.S. And finally, 100. That's how many years it took to complete the largest Catholic church in North America, the dedication of the Trinity Dome mosaic, marking the final architectural element at the Basilica of the National Shrine of the Immaculate Conception in Washington, D.C. 100 Beautiful place.
Amazing, stunning.
All right, well, parents can agree. Sometimes raising children can be a bit challenging.
Hilarious. Well, this amazing book called Making Children Mind Without Losing Yours has some tips for every parent.
Joining us now is New York Times best-selling author and parenting expert, Dr. Kevin Leman. Thank you. Thanks for coming.
Good morning.
Is this retroactive? Because my kids are 16 and 12. I might need to go back in a time machine. But
some of the stuff even works with
You have some great points, Dr. Leman. and I want to just quickly get to show our viewers sort of the three types of parents that you put out there. Tell us of them.
Parenting styles, the authoritarian. Most of us grew up with that. Hey, you listen up. You're going to do what I tell you to do. As long as you live in another's house. You understand me?
That's very Scorsese-like.
Hey, you want something to cry about?
Yeah.
You want something to cry about? I'll give you something to cry about.
Okay.
Yes.
Or maybe you had that dad that just gave you the look. And ladies, your little heels click together and your body straight. That's the authoritarian parent.
Yeah. The look is
But now we have the permissives, okay? Hey, would you turn that stuff down? I'm trying to finish your science project. Brittany, have you chosen to go to bed yet? So we have that group on either extreme produces rebellion. What we want is an authoritative parent, and that's the one that uses action, not words, okay? So,
so we're putting someone to bed. How does an authoritative do that as opposed to an authoritarian?
Authoritative might say, we're going to bed, take him by the hand, put him in. Can you make a kid go to sleep? No. Can you keep the kid in the room? You can. But that means with a real powerful kid, you may have to hold the door. They're going to kick the door. They're going to have a major meltdown. Don't say a word. That's the key. And they might cry themselves to sleep for a night with their little blankie, but they'll learn that mom and dad mean business.
So action, clear, consistent standards.
Action, not words. Kid throws a temper tantrum. What do? In the mall, you step over the child. What's that child trying to say? He's trying to say, hey, I am an authority over you.
Let me ask you this, Doctor. For the kid that has a parent that is authoritative versus authoritarian, how are they not going to rebel? What's the difference between the rebellion that you're going to see?
Wait, you're going to listen to a kid. A kid brings something up. He wants to go to a rock concert or something. What do most parents say? Hey, I'm not paying my hard-earned money for you to go hear some free music. Hey, wow, you want to go that far? That must be a great group. Hey, you don't have a CD I could put in my car and listen to them, would you? In other words, you want to enter these kids' lives, you better enter them on their turf.
Speaking of that, so it took me a decade to learn this, and now my wife and I say, don't take the bait when a child's having a temper tantrum or pressing us. You believe that's important?
Griff, we have seen the enemy, and they are small. They are unionized. The ankle biter battalion even. They play us like a violin. Force. So you have to understand that,
don't react.
Yeah, respond. Your 9-year-old, pick on a single mom, which is a tough road to hoe in life.
I had a single mother.
But that single mom, the little 9-year-old says, Mommy, I want a pony. They live in a 2-bedroom apartment. A pony? She's got a deep voice. A pony? Where'd you ever get an idea like that? I'm telling you, if a bird had your brain, he'd fly south. Sideways? What is wrong with you? Well, that's a reaction. How about this? Wow. Can you imagine having your own pony? Can you imagine riding to school in the morning, going by the kids at the school bus, tying up your pony? The kid says, yeah, Mom, but we live in a 2-bedroom apartment. We can't have a pony here.
Yeah. But you also, Doc, talk about using encouragement for kids versus praise.
Perfect.
What's the example?
5 A's come home on the report card. Traditional authoritarian parent. Oh, 5 A's. I'm so excited. I'm calling Aunt Sally and Uncle Jack right now. Oh, this is great. Wait till your father gets home. Oh, Mommy loves you so much.
Oh, I even have parents pay.
Here's $20.
Yeah, they pay for grades.
Here's $20. Now, let me give you encouragement. Wow, 5 A's. Congratulations. Look like all that hard work you put in really paid off. And guess what? You just saved yourself $20. So we all grew up with that. We all think that's the way it is. But encouragement, I call it vitamin E in making children mind without losing yours. And vitamin N is important. No. So that balance produces the authoritative parent.
Making children mind without losing yours. I've got a whole brood, so I need to read this whole thing. But it's smart stuff. I mean, what you do inside the margins of parenting, as much as we all love our kids, the question is, how do you mold them into someone who will be the kind of citizen and person you want them to be?
I'm old enough to remember when kids used to obey their parents. Now parents obey their kids. The whole thing's crazy. So be an authority.
It's so extreme, right?
Let your yes be yes, your no be no. St. Paul said it best. Children obey your parents. It's the right thing to do because God has placed them in authority over you. I have schools out in Arizona. We put authority in the classroom teacher's hand. What a difference.
Dr. Kevin Leman, thank you so much.
Thank you, Doctor.
Good stuff.
Appreciate
you for being here. You can buy the book.
All right, still ahead. Al Gore's new climate change documentary is full of debunked so-called science. So why did it inconveniently just get nominated for a major award. Shocking.
And comedian Chelsea Handler making a disgusting parody of White House Press Secretary Sarah Sanders.
I know what you guys were thinking. She's only 35. I get it. I got my dad's old face.
Well, guess what? Governor Mike Huckabee, yes, our colleague here.
Ain't no kneelers at the Army-Navy game. The pomp and circumstance in full effect in Philadelphia for the storied college football rivalry between Army and Navy.
Army ended up winning the game
14-13.
14-13 on a missed field goal with seconds to go. It was an unbelievable
I
game
do still
there.
feel bad for that kicker. 48 yards.
Yeah, you got to make
Army-Navy
that. But
game
you got to
in
make
the
that,
snow.
though. You got to make that.
We're going to bring in Mike Huckabee, former governor of Arkansas, Fox News contributor, and former GOP presidential candidate. Governor, did you see the game, and who were you pulling for?
Well, you know, I was pulling for the military. That's who I was pulling for yesterday.
Political.
That is a great answer.
You didn't even have to have television makeup today because you were glowing so much. It's just
that's real.
It's almost shameless.
Wait, so, Governor, did you say
Congratulations to Army.
or gloating?
Gloating is what I thought I heard. We had a little wager, Governor, and I was pulling for Navy, and Pete is letting me know at every segment.
Good stuff. Well, speaking of gloating,
so your boat sunk yesterday, Griff. That's the sad thing.
That's right, Governor. That's right.
That's right. Well, speaking of a little bit of gloating, the media wants to find any reason to take down this presidency, and multiple media backtracks on Russia reporting this week have put their missteps in the spotlight, and they put a fork in the collusion narrative. You know, you got Bloomberg, you got ABC, you've got CNN with reports that turned out to be wrong, many of which they've had to correct or apologize for. Does this expose that they've really got no runway on the Russia narrative?
Well, I thought the mass media this week had a mass case of COPD because they were all in this epidemic of breathlessness, reporting this whole thing of Donald Trump Jr. and Donald Trump getting a WikiLeaks key so that they could unlock all these secrets. Only one big problem. They didn't get anything that hadn't already been released to the public, and there's no indication that they did anything with it. It was a ridiculously wrong story. They had more egg on their face than you normally would see, you know, at an omelet contest. And they shamelessly continue to attack the president and his administration. Here's the net result. And I think the best article I've seen on this comes from a person who was pretty far out on the left, but he's doggone fair and legitimate when he covers something, and that's Glenn Greenwald. And he takes the media down in an article that he's posted and just basically says, when you continually get things wrong and then you breathlessly report on it as if you have the biggest scoop since Watergate, you destroy your credibility. And the result is you're actually helping Donald Trump, and that's what they're doing. They're delegitimizing the institution of journalism in a way that, you know, they blame Donald Trump for attacking the press. He's simply pointing out what they're doing. And it's really unfortunate because we need a responsible and a thoroughly good brand of journalism going on.
So, Governor, in Little Rock, Arkansas, this is, you mentioned Watergate, the Russia probe is the largest story of the year, perhaps, as Pete says, created by the media itself, and they're getting that story wrong in so many cases. In Little Rock, Arkansas, when people hear and read this, what are they making of it?
I don't think the average American cares less because they don't trust the media. And every week when these kind of things happen, they trust it less. So when Donald Trump comes out and he tweets about the media, the fake news, increasingly people say, you know, he's got a point, because every day somebody's got to apologize, somebody's getting suspended, like the unconscionable Brian Ross over at ABC, who's just hideous in his reporting. When this stuff keeps happening and they're proven to be wrong over and over, then they act like that it's Donald Trump's fault. that they don't have any credibility and people aren't taking them seriously. It's a great opportunity for journalism to take an inward look and say, it's not our job to tell people what to think. It's our job to get true facts, verify them, give them objectively to the public, and let them make up their own minds about what that means.
That's exactly right, Governor. I want to pivot really quickly, though, to another topic, and that is late-night host Chelsea Handler. She, as I'm sure you saw, made, I thought, a disgusting, mocking video of your daughter, Press Secretary Sara Sanders. And this is my thing, Governor, as you know, I have very little crossover politically with your daughter, but I have to tell you, I think she's doing an incredible job in a very difficult role, and I was sickened by this display of just anti-feminism and anti-professionalism from Chelsea Handler. What's your reaction as both a politician and also a father?
Well, as a father, you never like to see this kind of stuff on your kids. But, you know, my daughter's an adult. She's lived in the political arena her whole life. She understands it. She gets it. She doesn't particularly like it. But it doesn't get to her like I'm sure Chelsea Handler wishes it did.
It's good to hear.
My daughter's a very balanced person. She wakes up every morning to a loving husband, to 3 adorable children whose arms circle her neck. And it's something that gives her a balance that I feel sorry for Chelsea Handler. It's not something she understands. Her vicious attacks are beginning to backfire on her, and you know, she's called a late night host. I think it's so late now that she's not on anymore.
Epic shade from Governor Huckabee.
Well, the thing is, she's moving into the realm of Keith Olbermann, where she just no longer, people can take her seriously. But honestly, I feel sorry for her, and I owe her an apology, because last week, in talking about some other vicious things she said about my daughter, I said, look, she's almost my age. She, you know, she needs to kind of start mellowing out, and then I realized she's nowhere near my age. She just looked like it, and I thought that's unfortunate, and I'm not saying that to be mean, but no, seriously, and I'm trying to be honest here. When people are bitter and they live their lives in anger and hostility toward others, it shows. It takes away a countenance that people need, and I'm not trying to be funny. Honestly, people who are bitter and angry and lash out at others and have no sense of personal balance and joy, it's unfortunate, and that's why I say, with all sincerity, I feel sorry for her. I don't envy her, and I guarantee you my daughter doesn't.
Nope, who you are on the inside does show on the outside. I agree with you, Governor Huckabee. Well said.
Governor, thank you.
Thank you
well
so
done,
much.
Sir.
Thank
Appreciate
you,
it. All right,
thanks a bunch, guys.
Extreme weather now moving on. Millions of people in the Northeast, they're digging out this morning from the season's first big snowstorm. Big, if you count a couple of inches, is big. I'm from Minnesota. You know, we're talking feet, not inches. But some coastal areas receiving up to 6 inches.
Yeah, for them, I guess it feels like a lot, right? Black ice now creating treacherous travel conditions for those storms, and also stranding passengers at airports with thousands of flights both delayed and canceled.
Meteorologist Rick Regmuth joins us now with the latest weather conditions. Rick, what do you got?
Hey, guys. All right, I'm with you, Pete. Not big, but big across parts of the South, actually. In fact, record-breaking. Parts of Georgia seeing up to about 10 inches of snow, and some areas seeing kind of probably one of the biggest storms they've ever seen. But that's in the south, across the mid-Atlantic towards the northeast. This is kind of what the last 24 hours look like. Storm is gone. A lot of areas 4 to 5 inches or so of snow. Today, the cold air settles in, but we'll get above freezing in most cases. So we'll see a little bit of that snow begin to melt. Down across the south, get ready. A very chilly start to your morning. And because of that, a lot of the roads are frozen over this morning. So be very careful as you are headed out. Guys, back to you.
Thanks, Rick. Thanks, Rick. Still ahead, a group of conservative students kicked out of their campus coffee shop for wearing Make America Great Again hats.
I don't want people like you supporting this club.
Well, then you should include that I want a refund on my coffee.
Like
Yeah, then I'll give you a refund on my coffee. Then I want a refund. Yeah.
The mounting backlash against the school, that is coming up.
Oh, and guess what? Pope Francis now wants to change the Lord's Prayer because he says apparently it got lost in translation. Well, what does Father John think about that? Well, we'll ask him. Stay with us.
I am sincerely interested.
Yeah.
What will he say? Father John, with the definitive take on the Lord's Prayer this morning.
Oh, my goodness.
How are you?
Thank you, Father John.
How are you?